Recording in progress.
Call the Administration and Finance Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, July 26, 2022. First item of business is number 2 on the agenda, the approval of minutes for June 28th, 2020. Now, let's do the roll call first. We got call to order here, no roll call.
Malinowski.
Here.
McBride.
Here.
Livingston.
Here.
Joe Walker.
Here.
Jessica Mackey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next, approval of the minutes for June 28th, 2022.
A move.
Got a motion in a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Number 3, adoption of the agenda. Any changes at all, Madam Clerk or Mr. Administrator?
No requested changes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, hearing none.
A move for the adoption.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Madam Clerk?
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4, items for action. 4A, Department of Public Works, Solid Waste and Recycling Division, Waste Tire Disposal and Recycling Contract on pages 13 to 40. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Beginning on page 13, I just want to point out a couple of things here. This item that staff is requesting reflects a compliance matter that Richland County is responsible for complying with. If you notice under regulatory compliance, on that section, it talks about the section 4496-170 waste tires of the South Carolina Solid Waste Policy Management Act dictates that each county will establish an approved waste tire accumulation site, designate waste tires processing, recycling, and disposal methods to be used, and then begin disposal operations in compliance with the applicable regulation. This current contract satisfies all those requirements. And further in the agenda packet, you will see where this item has been bid out previously unsuccessfully. And so at this point in time, we don't think it's prudent to continue to go with that process right now, but to go ahead and approve the current provider to continue providing these services.
I'll entertain a motion for discussion.
Motion to approve recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I've got a few questions here. Basically, this is do it or you're in violation of state law. And at one point, it mentions about the county, if they accepted tires and to do the processing, would have to transport them. I don't know, did anybody run any figures? I saw that there could have been a little bit of a potential problem here by being a month behind because they only accept by appointment. But did anybody run the figures in order to let us know what that cost would be for the county to do it on their own? Now, you can say we don't have the manpower or the equipment would satisfy the answer, but I'm waiting for somebody.
Which is a true statement.
Which is a true statement?
That is correct.
Okay, then that's all I need for that one. Thank you, Administrator Brown. And what I did not see, I could have overlooked it here. I didn't see what Richland County paid last year in total for this service, nor what the estimate for this year is with all these figures in here.
Mr. Dishkin, were you going to attempt to address that, ma'am?
I was going to attempt to address it, but I don't know that I have the figures with me, so I can send those. I'll address those with Mr. Malinowski.
So what I will say is under additional fiscal budgetary matters to consider, it does say that the previous 5-year contract talks about that, Mr. Malinowski, but it says the price per ton has increased from $150 per ton to
I saw that,
$185.
and I
then
did
it
the
gives the
math
total
on
tonnage.
I did the math on the tonnage and all.
Okay.
But that, and I didn't know if there was something additional in those figures, like on page 17 of the agenda where it's got fuel prices and on page 16 where it's got collection disposal fees. I don't know if there's any of that in these figures to give us a different amount.
Okay, understood.
So I'll just wait for Ms. Wadishkin to get me that info. Also on page 17 where we talk about the price per gallon of fuel, and talks about the average price is verified weekly from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Are we mandated to use that particular agency and that information? Because as most folks know, South Carolina has some of the lowest fuel prices in the nation. So if we have the lowest, can't we use a South Carolina state fuel price? Because that's where they're buying it.
We can address that with the provider and see if they'll accept that change to their proposed contract.
Okay. Also on page 18, termination. If said defaulting party fails to correct the default within 20 working days from the date of notice, the other party may terminate this contract immediately. But it doesn't say anything about damages, such as if it costs the county additional funds prior to getting this terminated, that we can recoup them. Is that something we should want to address in here? I guess I'll direct that to Attorney Wright.
It's something that can be addressed. It's up to council or staff whether they think it's something that they want to do in this particular contract.
Peter Brown, what do you think?
We certainly can just consider it, but what I would want to do though is if it hinders our ability to utilize the contractor, I don't want to do that because we already in a situation where we have a good provider who is not causing us issues. And so I don't want to create an issue that doesn't exist.
Okay. And on page 19, where we talk about insurance, it talks about a minimum amount in the very first portion covering transportation. It says of $1 million. And again, in the last paragraph where it talks about liability insurance, it says $1 million. Do you think that we should be putting per occurrence on each of those?
Mr. Malinowski, may I be
Yes.
recognized?
Yes, good.
We can discuss that with the Risk Management Office and implement any changes they recommend.
Okay. I just know we've put that on several other contracts when it came to insurance. I want to make sure we're not cutting ourselves short on this one. On page 20, 14.2, this contract may be changed only by agreement in writing and signed by both parties here too. Do we want to specify within a so many day notice by either party? I throw that one out there. You can give me an answer on that one also if you think that's something we need to do. Other than that, I'd like to see those changes by the time this gets to council. Where's this going tonight?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
regarding the question you just asked, since that section is by agreement only, it's by both parties have to agree. So I'm not sure it would be necessary to have a time period because both parties have to agree on it. Or
Okay.
any change.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Any other comments?
Is this,
Yes, Ms. McBride and then Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Back to state administrator made, if they're good providers, or good service workers, then we don't want to jeopardize that contract. But I am concerned with the price per gallon, because would not be difficult for Richland County when there's no type of system that charges gallons and the service stations basically can charge what they want? Or is there state guidelines against that account?
For the fuel adjustment,
Yes.
typically the fuel adjustments are the per gallon prices.
So here we've got the different prices on page 17, but could we do that in Richland County? I'm wondering if we just should not use what we have. Could we find the different adjustment causes?
Yeah, I can check into that and make that.
But if we
proposal.
can't, it's okay with you, we cannot forget that information.
And
Okay, I just don't want to hold,
Yeah.
I don't want to hold the process up.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mackey?
thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my question as well, because it is on the agenda for tonight. And so I was trying to get clarity on what direction you were giving since it's on the agenda tonight.
But we can't get some of these answers tonight. When does this have to be approved by ultimately?
Contract. Go back. Give me a second, Miss. Let me see when the contract expires in here. It's in here. And if somebody that's online gets it before I do, please address the chair. Mr. Malinowski, if you would like to move on to another item while I get when this contract expires, we can certainly come back and answer that question for you.
Well, I think we could carry the vote on this, and part of it could be that if we could adjust the motion that it's when it gets to council, we want to have that info. That gives you time to get it.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second, and friendly amendment. I would like to add that we get the questions answered by the time we get to council later
I thought I
tonight.
saw it on page 2 somewhere, the 6th, is it September 22?
I may be overlooking it, Mr. Livingston, so if
Is
that's
that in
it.
top of page 2?
22? As blanks for signatures.
That's on page 2, not,
Oh, 2. No, wait, page 2 is,
It's 13.
1 of 2 and 2 right behind
were you talking about effective for a 5-year term?
as the contract for residential curbside solid waste collection services in areas 6 expires September 22nd?
No, sir, I think we're on the
Oh, yeah.
tire one,
Oh, okay.
which but even on that one, I believe that says that the contract is made and entered on the first day of August 2022. So I can confirm, but that sounds like to me that means we will be expiring here pretty soon if this new 5 years would start the first day of August 22. But I'll have that by council meeting this evening.
There's no further discussion then. If you'll call for the vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Malinowski,
I'll say no for now.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4B, Department of Public Works Solid Waste and Recycling Division Collection Area 6. We have information in the agenda, pages 31 to 69, but we also have been provided a separate updated briefing document for this particular meeting. And that document, while there were some minor changes throughout, I guess the main part is toward the very end, the last 3 pages. Administrator Brown?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, in short, this is a new provider that staff is recommending for approval by this committee. You may be aware that there have been some service issues in Area 6. And at this point in time, we believe that this is the path forward that we are recommending the committee move forward with to remedy, hopefully, those service issues. So the staff's recommendation is for approval of the award of this contract to the new vendor, New South Waste.
Motion to approve staff recommendation?
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, my question, Administrator Brown, on the attachment 2 of the amended one here, the updated. At the very bottom, it says about yard waste collection is a limited service beginning September 1st. And it says the payment basis for this limited service is $750 per customer per month. Now, not everybody puts out yard waste, but is this just based on the total number of customers we have, regardless of whether they put out yard waste or not?
I believe that's correct. I do not want to misspeak. So I believe we do have John Ansel on the line, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Director Maloney's in the building. So didn't see him.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it's per customer per month. It's a varied amount. You can never measure that. And so it's running all the routes for the yard waste. You saw a deduct from September 1 to September 30th as a service we're removing from waste management during that 30-day period. And then adding that to New South, they will be implementing their service starting on September 1st with yard waste and going to full service on October 1st. And we have the owner here, Jim Reed, and his son, the local contractor.
Okay, that didn't give me my answer, sir. My question was, is the per customer based only on those people that are putting out yard waste?
It's based on the total customer.
The total number of customers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a motion and approval on this one. If there's no additional discussion, Madam Clerk?
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4C, Risk Management Fleet Services Central Garage Canopy Addition Project. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Staff is requesting approval of this item to increase the workspace, which will allow for more work and more efficient work to be done in the central garage facility. And so staff is recommending approval of this item. It is funded within a budget process that the department has. So there are no additional requests for funding. And again, we're recommending this approval.
Motion to approve council staff recommendation?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. My question, Administrator Brown, and maybe this is where it always comes out of, but I don't recall from budget time, is fleet management. Do they always come under the risk management budget?
They are affiliated with risk management.
That's part of it.
That's part of their management.
Okay. And I guess this would be a question for Procurement Director Władyskin. And while we've chosen Hoover Metal Buildings, I guess it's my understanding because an RFP was put out there and there were no responses. And so the Hoover was chosen, but it says they were selected based on previous experience with county projects. And I don't see it erecting a metal building as that you've got to have previous experience to do it. If I've got a building so many dimensional in size and you work with metal buildings, you should be able to put it up. Did anyone go and try to find out other prices besides this almost 700,000 that's in front of us?
Yes, you're correct. We did do a competitive solicitation process, which had no submittals. We previously had submitted, if you'll recall, a bid for the Eastover building for Public Works, which was awarded to Hoover as the lowest responsible bidder. And Hoover had also been out to Public Works in the past to provide some budgetary information regarding this particular project. And actually, I'm going to correct myself. This was bid out twice with no responses. And so we ultimately decided to negotiate with Hoover due to the fact that they had competitively won a bid for Eastover and we're already familiar with the project.
Okay, well, I only asked that because I happened to see an ad on television last night that had a building similar to the size we want here, and they only wanted 120,000, but I don't know what else is involved there. That's why I'm asking, it seems like we maybe would have reached out to some other metal building places, of which there are several in the Midlands area here. What are we doing about the fact that this was guaranteed and that guarantee has expired according to this contract or this proposal in front of us? It was done July 8th and said if not accepted in 15 days, they can't guarantee it. What do we do about that?
We'll be approaching the vendor to hold their prices that they submit. They have recently, we have recently spoken to them about the pricing in this package.
Okay, and are we going to get an itemized list on these 1 through 14, what it's going to cost for each item rather than just a total lump sum?
We'd have to request that from the vendor.
All right, seems like these are things that we should be doing, but okay, I'm done. Anyone else? Ms. McBride?
Yes, in terms of the request for proposal that you sent out, did that include all of the companies that would provide the metal building? Or is it a list based on a previous list we had, or what? How do you determine?
The bids were publicly advertised in South Carolina Business Opportunities as well as on the Richland County website. We did not specifically target any businesses and invite them to submit.
And that's the normal process.
Correct, yes.
So I understand what you're saying, Mr. Malinowski. So I know we're looking at improving the process.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, Madam Clerk?
Malinowski,
No.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4D, Community Planning and Development, Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership, fiscal year 2022 to 2026, 5-year consolidated plan, and a fiscal year 2022 annual action plan. The Cliff Note version are on pages 77 to 453. Administrator.
Okay, I thought you were going to move with that one. Okay. So we do actually have ACA Jensen here this evening, and I'm going to ask him to address this item, Mr. Chair, if you'll recognize him.
Sure, go ahead. Mr. Jensen, ACA Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to give you 2 minutes worth of background on just the program in general, and then 2 minutes of where we are in this particular process. So every year HUD gives various block grants to communities throughout the country. In fact, to all the communities, jurisdictions, and they do it 2 different ways. They either have what they call an entitlement community, which is where if you're at least 50,000 in population or you meet certain poverty guidelines, you get money directly from HUD. If you are a community that is smaller than 50,000 and or do not meet those guidelines, then your local county administers those funds for you. In other words, the funds come to the county, and this is my understanding is simply a HUD cost keeping operation where they say, you know what, if we had to run these programs through every small community, it would bankrupt us. So we essentially say, if you're below a certain size, we give it to the county then administers it for you. I used to do this for another county where we had 13 incorporated towns and cities. 3 of them were entitlement, 10 were not. As the county CDBG planner, I administered the funds for the unincorporated area and those 10 communities. So here in Richland County, we have 1 incorporated community that is, or 1 incorporated community that is also an entitlement community. That is the city of Columbia. All of the others, a town of Eastover, Irmo, Blythewood, so forth, those are all below the threshold. And so any funds that was to come from HUD through this program would have to be administered by the county on their behalf. HUD requires every 3 years that the county offer this service to those communities that are not entitlement communities. They have to, in writing, either decide to opt in and have the county administer the program or the funds and participate with the county, or to opt out. This just happens to be one of those 3 years. So this year, we need to reach out to those communities and confirm that they want to allow funds received by the county to be administered or utilized within their jurisdictions. So we were hoping that, or we are requesting that the committee and council direct the staff to move forward with that annual or that 3-year process, and that we reach out to those communities. So that's where we are right now. In terms of what this does, the every 5 years, HUD requires that a community, an entitlement community, conduct a 5-year and prepare a 5-year plan and an annual action plan, which you do every year. So this year we just happen to have, it's one of the 5-year blocks. So we have to prepare the 5-year plan and we have to prepare the annual action plan. So this year was a very busy year for our staff. We hired a consultant because, as Mr. Malinowski said, it's multiple hundreds of pages of very intense and complex federal reporting, excuse me. It involves a lot of data collection, data parsing, and providing to HUD the information that they require in a certain specific format. And so just about every jurisdiction I've ever been in, we've had a consultant prepare that 5-year plan for us, simply because it is such a specialized document. So this year, what you have before you is the 5-year plan and also the 1-year plan. So it's the subset, it's the 1-year subset of that 5-year plan that we are asking you to consider this year. These programs vary. They're primarily LMI related, low to moderate income. So the funds can be used for various things. Within the CDBG, within that block grant, the community development block grant, there are certain pots of money that can be used for one thing that maybe another cannot. And so within this 5-year plan, you will see how those different funds are proposed to be broken out and what they can and cannot be used for. It would be, as Mr. Malinowski said, it would be probably futile for me to try to give you all those details. But if you look on, I believe it's the 3rd page after the staff report, there is a simple breakdown of the budget, simple, relatively speaking. It says fiscal year 2022 CDBG and home budget for Richland County's SC at the top of the page. Again, it's a one-pager, and it kind of shows you the different programs and what is being proposed, how those funds be allocated. That is about as simple as we can put it, so and having worked with this, for 20 plus years, I will tell you, it is a very complex, tedious document. It just is. It's a federal program. That's all I can say. And so this one page, if you can read and understand this one page, you will understand 90% of what the other 300 pages say. It's just, generally, this is where the money's going. This is the program it's going to. This is how much is being allocated. And that is really your responsibility as a council and as a committee, is to determine how much money do you want allocated to each one of these subset programs. So in general, that's what we're asking you to do today, to approve this document or to recommend approval to the council or to forward it to council so that council on August 30th can then, as a full body, review it, make any changes. We have time in between to make changes. So that is our recommendation and our request.
Ms. McBride and then Ms. Mackey.
It's interesting that you said, because this is one of the best documents I read in terms of strategic planning. And this program provides us with support and data as to why it's a priority. You're not just pulling it out of the air. You got the data to support the priority areas. You have the data to support all the input that you got from the communities. Mm-hmm. I would hope that one day we could get to the point that we would use information like this in developing our plans, our priorities for the county. And particularly, I know this is a lot of work and it's less than $2 million. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It's less than $2 million. But the information will justify how we use these funds. So this is, to me, it's an excellent document, and that we could actually take information from this document to help support other strategic plans that we're developing, help us support other areas we're trying to define, for example, in the ARPA funds, the program areas, because we don't have to pull numbers out of the sky. We actually have the documentation here. So it's a lot to read, but I happen to enjoy this type of reading. So I applaud the staff for their work. Now, how we implement it is a different thing, but I am applauding you for your strategic plan.
Thank you.
McBride, Ms. Mackey.
Thank you. My comments are very similar to Ms. McBride's in that this is a good document with a lot of data. And I do think, she's right, using some of this data as we have just, as a body, approved our strategic plan. And there are some things in our strategic plan that we talk about that are listed in this. So I think it'd be great to figure out a way to combine those as we make decisions with our initiatives and kind of prioritizing things moving forward. The second thing I wanted to find out is, just so I understand a little bit better about the CDBG money as a whole, is this the max that we can get as a county? Are there other CDBG funds that we can also get that it maybe falls under a separate category other than this, or does this encompass it all?
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you. Yes, this is the maximum. We always request the maximum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? See no other hand. Ms. McBride, no. Madam Clerk, call the vote, please.
Chairman, can I please get a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, good. Good catch. Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5. A, B, and C are items pending analysis, no action required. The first one has to do with staff collaborating with the CASA group to see if the county can receive funding from the state. And right now, the response on page 4, staff has requested information from the ad litem program regarding the requirements for Richland County's CASA to join. And they're speaking with a legislative delegation. And staff was encouraged to contact the state program to be notified of the steps to take in order to achieve this. Number B has to do with the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center and making sure that the per diem rates are up to date and accurate. We're not charging costs that are from 4 and 5 years ago, but current costs. And it also has to do with reviewing the intergovernmental agreements with any agencies that take individuals to that detention center. That one says that the motion has been shared with the new department director, which I don't understand that one because it's staff that has to come up and implement the actual costs and the IGAs. And the department director, I think, has to run the detention center. And C, any agency that does receive funds from Richland County during the budget process or otherwise, that for accountability purposes, they must show what has happened to those funds that they received. And that one, staff is currently evaluating everyone that received funding. And once they've completed their evaluation, they will develop a process and inform those as well as council what they are doing. And that's the summary. We're down to number 6, adjourn.
Adjourn, Mr. Chair.
And a motion
Second.
and a second, Madam Clerk.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston. Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
You are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.